There are now 2 coats of sealer on the body. So my next step is going to be, because this is going to be a 2-color sunburst, the next step is to spray black on the edges. So what I want to do is I want to mask off the rest of the instrument. So what I've done is I've prepared a mask that I'm going to double stick tape down, and then that will keep it from getting onto the main body of the guitar. So I've used painter's tape because this finish is fairly fresh. I'm afraid that my double stick tape will leave too much residue. So I've put it around the edges. I left a gap. I do want some of the overspray to go under the mask, and then that'll help it roll over the edge. These little body cutouts make it rather difficult to get the mask to stay totally flat. Again, we want some of the overspray under the edges. So we got both sides done. We'll head out, apply the black to the edges, and then take the mask off. Probably 2 coats of black. The black around the edges came out really nice. I got a few bits of overspray that I'm not going to want to keep. It's a little too extensive. So I'm just going to hit it with the 400 grit paper. More to blend it. It's got square edges from the tape, and that just is going to just look bad. The brown is going to cover up most of this. Just go over it again and make sure there's no tape residue. And then what we're going to do is we're going to spray an amber over the front and the back. The amber coats are on. I had some blushing. I had to get some blush remover, which worked really well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to spray on a couple of coats of clear, and that will allow me to sand off any overspray I get with the brown. I also sprayed the neck with the amber, so you don't have that pale white maple. Looks kind of boring. I think it came out pretty good. So we're moving forward. We have the sunburst sprayed. Looks a little darker in this light. When I bring it out into the sunlight, it does look a little bit lighter, and there's actually some touch-up I need to do at the edges on the brown. Maybe fade in a little more into the amber. But so far so good. I'll do some touch-ups, and then I'll be starting to spray some clear coats. The lacquer has been complete. 6 coats of clear lacquer on top of the sunburst, and the next step was to buff it out. So I wet sanded it up to 1200 grit, and then I buffed it using coarse, medium, and fine buffing compounds, and we got a pretty decent finish. I'm not 100% happy with it, but it doesn't look too bad. Now the next step will be to assemble all the components and put this thing together. First thing First thing I'm going to want to do here is to install the tremolo claw in the back. We're actually using a Fender tremolo. This is vintage narrow tremolo assembly, which means it mounts like a vintage tremolo, which is what our template was, but it's got the string spacing for an import, which is what this body is. So it was the best option I had to fit what I needed to fit. So I used the claw to mark the holes, and then I'm going to take my drill bit and I'm going to drill them out. I can see about how deep I want to go. I'll vacuum out that dust and attach the claw. Put a little wax on the screws to help them along. And I'm using a long screwdriver. I'm not going to screw them in all the way. As I apply tension to the springs, I can adjust these screws so that we get the right tension on the tremolo. I had pre-drilled the holes for the tremolo, but they were smaller than they needed to be. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open those holes up with the correct size bit. Now we will install the tremolo. So the tremolo is in place. Now we'll attach the springs. I'm only going to use 3 springs to start. See how that is? I can always add more later on if I need to. Alright, so I did buy strap locks, and they just happen to be Fender strap locks. So we're going to install those neck. So for the electronics, I bought a pre-wired pickguard, classic stack loaded pickguard. So what I'm hoping for is a good sound out of the box. But I typically don't like to have my bridge pickup without a tone control. So I'm going to see how it goes, but I'm reserving the right later on to take the pickguard off and move the tone control from the middle pickup to the bridge. So this system from Seymour Duncan, it is solderless. So all I have to do is insert the wires into the terminals here and just tighten it down with a little screwdriver, which they actually provide, which is very, very good. So that's it. The pickguard is connected. Oh, there we go. Bridge ground from guitar. They do have it on their chart. So we'll get they didn't include a wire, so I'll dig up a piece of wire and get that bridge ground connected.
I've decided that I don't need to replace the frets. They're actually in okay condition. So I've taken some steel wool and polished them. And what I'm doing now is I'm using fret rubbers to polish them even further. Started with coarse, medium, fine, and extra fine.
Alright, so now we're going to try to restore this wood as best we can. I've got fretboard finish and cleaner, and I've got fretboard restorative. So we're going to spray this on. And you can see what's happening on this cloth. We're pulling a lot of stuff out of this fretboard. Boy, that really improved it a lot. Now we're going to apply an oil to help protect the fingerboard. So there are definitely some dents and dings in this fingerboard that no amount of cleaning will get out. I'm hoping that if I do have to do a refret, I'll probably resand the fretboard down a bit, minimize some of those dents and dings. But other than that, the only steps we have here to do is install the tuners and put on the string tree and re-drill the attachment holes for the body. Then we'll be able to put the neck on and we'll have a guitar ready to go.